City. Hey! I'm not looking back to what once was. My vision ahead to where you are now. I know you have greater things for me. So with every step I believe it's a brand new day. All my past is washed away. So I'll give you all my praise. Jesus, I will go your way. You have all my life. All my life. Hey, hey. All my life. All my life. It's for you. Hey. It's for you. Hey, hey. Verse 2. It's a new season I'm living in. Everything's changed because you're with me. Yeah, I come alive in your presence. So with every step I believe it's a brand new day. All my past is washed away. So I'll give you all my praise. Jesus, I will go your way. You have all my life. Hey, all my life. All my life. All my life. Hey, it's for you. It's for you. Hey. Every beat of my heart beats for you. Every breath in my lungs is for you. Everything that I do is for you. Jesus is for you. Every beat of my heart beats for you. Every breath in my lungs is for you. Everything that I do is for you. Jesus is for you. One clap. You can have my life. You can have my praise. We give it all to you. You have all my life. Hey, all my life. It's yours, it's yours, it's yours. All my life. All my life. Let's go. It's for you. It's for you. Every beat of my heart is for you. Every breath in my lungs is for you. Everything that I do is for you. Jesus is for you. One time let's sing. Every beat of my heart is for you. Everything that I do is for you. Everything that I do is for you. Jesus is for you. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. we live for you. Yeah. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Yes, Lord, oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Come on, worthy of every song. Let's sing it out. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, yes, we do. Say Jesus. Jesus, the name above every other name. There's no one higher. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Come on, let's sing it out. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I in your love to those. Come on, one more time. Holy, holy. Open up my eyes. Let's seal it with this. I will build my upon your. Yeah. Jesus, we trust you with everything that we have going on. When things don't make sense, when people seem to be weird or mean to us, that our close friends, honestly, we trust you. We trust that you always have intention. We trust that you always have a plan. Remind us of who we are rooted in. Remind us that we have a home in you, our firm foundation, our solid rock, our cornerstone. Thank you for being so faithful to us, Jesus. Yeah, let that continue to be our prayer. I will build my life upon your love. All decisions, everything that I do, it leads all to you. Everything leads to you. All roads lead to you. God, thank you for just a time of just refreshing. I pray that somebody today just saw you in a new way, or they were just reminded of something old that just needed to be revived. Pray that the message is it just blesses us, and we're able to just understand you more and just know more about your word. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Forgot to put my mic on. I was so excited to come and hang out with you guys that I just forgot that I needed a mic. All right. Hey, hello. Welcome, high school. So good to see you all. My name is Jess. I have a couple of things to tell you before we jump into this new series. First of all, any of you, where are those seniors? Seniors in the room? A few seniors? Yeah. What about 11th graders? Yeah. A few 11th graders. And not 9th and 10th graders. You won't even, I don't think you would have been with us. I'm pretty sure my math is correct. We are bringing back something this year in January that I'm so excited about. How about 9th and 10th grade? Did any of you go to Hangar 24 when you were in 7th or 8th grade? Okay, all right. Okay, so on January 21st through 23rd, we are doing Hangar 48, which is the high school version of Hangar 24. So thank you, Mackenzie. I see your excitement, and I appreciate it. Thank you. So here's the deal. We are going to a place called Camp Watermark, and it's like a couple of hours away in Virginia, and it's awesome. We're super excited. The team, our student ministries team, is going to go check out the camp and do a little scouting to get the lay of the land here in a couple of weeks. We're super excited about that. So here's what Hangar 48 is. It is a 48-hour retreat. Starts on Friday night at about. We'll leave here around like 7 or so o'clock at night. So we have to wait. It's a small group based retreat. So your small group leaders, many of your small group leaders will come with us, and we pay small group leaders. We pay your way. So just put it on your calendar and make sure that you're with us. So it's a small group retreat. So your small group leaders come, and so we have to wait. So the reason I'm telling you that is because we have to wait for them to get off of work before we can leave. So we wait for everybody to get off work and to get here, and then we drive to the camp, and we get there on Friday night, and we have all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and then we come back here and have our last service is here in the hangar on Sunday night with everybody else who didn't get to come necessarily to Hangar 48. And it's awesome. We like blow this place up on Sunday night once we're back because we're just so excited about Jesus. And it is it's so much fun, you guys. Like, it's so much fun. And also, we go deep on Hangar 48. Like, if you are in a place in your faith where you're ready to, like, level up, like, you're ready to know, like, what's the next thing? Like, how do I take, like, this, which is great, how do I take it a little bit further? Hangar 48 is going to be so good for you. So we love that about this event. It gives us just an opportunity with just some concentrated time to really dig into some things, to really dig into the Word, to just really bond together as a Hangar family. And so super excited. January 21st through 23rd. Make sure it's on your calendar. Your parents and you, if you get emails from Jackie, which some of you do, we'll start to get registration links in your inbox here really soon. And then, of course, we'll throw it up on Instagram with the registration link once it's ready to go. And yeah, so that's the deal. January 21st through 23rd. And then next summer, June 24th, I think, 21st, we're doing Camp Grow and IYC. We are just like last summer, where we had Camp Grow here at the church, and we were the counselors, and we were like the staff for this 200-kid VBS that was here at the church, and then we did the service projects. Next year, we're doing the same thing, but wait, there's more. After Camp Grow is done, we are getting on an airplane and flying to Texas. We're going to San Antonio for IYC, all right? So let me tell you about IYC. Let me tell you what it is, because possibly none of you have been to IYC. Has anybody been to IYC? I'm not sure that any of you have ever been to IYC, which is wild. Okay, IYC is in San Antonio, Texas. It traditionally, and I have no idea how many kids to expect this year, but traditionally we're talking about it's been as many as 6,000 teenagers that gather together in a convention center so that we can worship, learn. We have breakout sessions. It is one of, if not the best thing that we are part of this like movement of churches called the Church of God Anderson, and it is the best thing that our movement does. Like IYC, we put so much work into that. I'm on the planning team for IYC. I'm one of the leaders that helps to like put together the speakers and the bands and the breakout sessions and all of those pieces of it. So it's going to be so much fun. We stay in a really nice hotel there in San Antonio, and we do this incredible thing at the end of every night. We did it at Camp Grow last summer, so if you were with us for Camp Grow, then you got like a bit of it. We do circle time every single night at the end, and we'll do that at the end of IYC days. They are long days, but they're so good. So I feel like I'm not doing it justice, but you saw the dates up there. Camp Grow, there's like, because of the timing of everything, like there's gonna be a couple of days break in between Camp Grow and IYC, but Camp Grow, IYC next summer, again, registration and links and everything are gonna go out to your parents or to you in the next week or two. I hope you guys are hyped for it, because I cannot wait to hang out with you guys, both places. Like, I cannot wait. It's gonna be so much fun. A couple of you had hands up like you had questions. Cole, did you have a question?
Oh, I would say, so can we move should we move Camp Grow like a week earlier? Because we'll be like really tired from the first week.
You'll have a little bit of time to recover, but Normally, here's the thing. Normally, we would do Lead to 22, which is a full 5+ day work project, and immediately do IYC. So you'll be fine. You're teenagers. I'm not worried. If I can do it, all y'all can do it. So, good? Yeah. You had it. Josh had a question. Wait so I can hear Josh.
Is it going to be similar to Mix?
So IYC is similar to Mix in that they are both awesome. It is very different from Mix in that Mix does a lot of games, a lot of big group games, and a lot of student involvement up on the stage. Mix is about a 500-person event. IYC is however many kids show up, there will be at least 2,000 to 3,000 kids who show up to IYC. So it's just different kind of in size, in scale. But production-wise, it's very similar, in that there's a lot of production. Does that make sense? So it's kind of similar, but just on a much bigger scale. Yes, Anna.
But IYC session after, will we still do all the evening stuff after Camp Row?
Yes. Yep. Any other questions? Yes.
So if we buy tickets, how much are they, to get on the plane?
Yeah, we are negotiating with a travel agent right now to figure out what the price is going to be. So, yeah, we're trying to figure it out. Southwest has not released their ticket prices for July or for June yet, so we're trying to wait just a little bit, but we're going to have something locked in here pretty soon. Okay. We were hoping to be tonight, but the travel agent, we just weren't quite ready. So, any other questions? Okay, yeah.
The s'mores, is it after 8:30 or before 8?
That was where I was headed next. Thank you, Rachel, for just making my transition right into the next thing. So tonight, after your small groups, you can get done with your small groups a little bit early if you want to and head out, or you can just wait till your small group is done. But we have s'mores, we have fire pits and s'mores down in the hub lawn. So you go downstairs to the hub and go out past the ping pong table to those doors out there, and there are fire pits set up, and we have little baggies. So it's our COVID protocols for this tonight are that we have little baggies that have 2 s'mores each in the baggie. So grab a baggie, and you can roast some marshmallows and do that. You can, I think Kyle said he was going to try and have the fires going around 8. So anytime after 8, if you want to go out there and finish your small group early, feel free. Otherwise, just go when you're done. You don't have to go. You can just go home if you want. But it's going to be fun. So that's the deal. Good? Anybody want to play a game? Have a little game. You may or may not get egg on you. Okay, go ahead. Sure. All right. Have any of you seen the egg challenge on TikTok? Are we familiar with this? Okay, I need one of you on each side of this table facing so that people can see you. Got it? Does that make sense? Okay. So, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what this is? Do you know what this is? You know what this is. You don't know what this is. Okay, so you're going to alternate you're going to alternate hands. And every once in a while, one of you is going to pick up the cup, and the other one is going to try to not smash the egg. Okay? Does that make sense? And we're going to go until one of you smashes the egg. So one of you, unless it's minutes and minutes from now, in which case I do still have a sermon to do. But, okay, so. At some point, one of you has to challenge the other one. Okay, all right, go again. The egg is kind of moving.
I want to bring it to you.
led me to believe this would end by now. Brandon wants to play so bad. The peanut gallery over there is in full effect. All right, Brandon, come on up. Join him. We'll rotate. So you're gonna have to go in a circle now, I think. And I'm moving. Okay. Good job. You can just leave it. Just leave it right there. Yeah, you're good. Good job. Everybody appreciate. Thank you. Okay, so why did we do that? Have you guys ever felt like your brain was like a little bit like overloaded, or like maybe a little bit like you've got so much, like you're trying so hard to focus and you get like stuck and like it doesn't quite maybe work a little bit? Or has your brain ever felt stuck? Anyone? Yeah, my brain gets stuck sometimes. Our brains are amazing, imaginative things. They allow us to like wonder, they allow us to get curious, we can think critically, but sometimes our brains get a little bit stuck. For me, it happens when I'm like under a lot of pressure and there's like, or like I walk into my house and I look around and I see so many things that need to be picked up and put away or cleaned or washed or whatever, that I just feel like overwhelmed by how many things there are and like paralyzed. Like I can't do any of it because there's so much. So my brain gets a little bit stuck sometimes. As brilliant as our brains are, they can get confused or they can get stuck when they're like facing a challenge, like don't smash the egg, or a hard question, like am I about to get drenched in egg yolk? Of course, there's other more serious questions, right? That cause us to get stuck too. So sometimes our big questions inspire our imaginations and make us wonder about the answers, but other times the questions leave us feeling stuck, leave us feeling overwhelmed, leave us feeling like paralyzed, like we don't know what to do next. So I would like for you to raise your hand if you can relate to, I'm gonna ask you some questions, and raise your hand if you would say like, yes, like I can relate to that. Have you ever felt stuck on like an exam question? You know the feeling where like you read the words to the question over and over again, but like your mind is blank, like you have no idea. Everything you studied is like, it's like it just went away. Okay. Have you ever felt that way? What about the really big problems in the world? Like maybe an issue in the world that you are seeing and you like can't quite make sense of it, and so you don't really know how to respond to it. Maybe it's something like world hunger. Maybe you see world hunger and you feel like I don't fully understand, and so like I don't know how to respond. Or maybe it's people without access to clean water. Or maybe it's about violence or war or natural disasters or people without medical access or homelessness or addictions. Have you ever felt stuck when it comes to like the big problems in the world? Anybody ever felt stuck about some of those? Okay, what about, has a problem in the world ever left you asking questions about God? Have you ever seen something out there happening in the world, something really painful, and has it ever made you like ask some questions about who God is, about God's nature, about God's activity in the world, especially when we see hurt and pain and suffering in the world around us? Maybe you wonder, like, why hasn't God done anything about that? If God is who Jess and Kyle and my small group leaders say God is every single week, then why does X, Y, or Z still happen? Like, why are these problems still there if God is as powerful as we talk about God being in church on Sunday? Maybe you've had this question, but you've like stifled it because you thought you weren't allowed to ask that question. Some of you maybe haven't thought about it before at all, and that's fine. But this is your invitation to engage your imagination on some things. The world is full of a lot of hurt, and so it makes sense to wonder, when people are hurting, where is God? In like 2004 2014, 2015, we we were awakened to a crisis that had been going on for a while in a country called Syria, and we were. I say we, at our church here, we just became aware of it in a way that we weren't really aware of it before. It had been happening before that, but we just sort of became aware of it, partly because we have a really close relationship with an organization called Heart for Lebanon that is located in Beirut. And the daughter of the founder of Heart for Lebanon was on staff at our church at the time, and she was just telling us about this massive influx of refugees from Syria that were coming in to Lebanon. And around the same time, the president decided to significantly increase the capacity of Syrian refugees that our country was going to take in. And so there were thousands of refugees that were going to Lebanon. There were millions of refugees going into Lebanon, and there were tens of thousands of refugees that we were anticipating here in our country from this place in Syria. Syria still has this horrible dictator and who has used horrible weapons on his people and killed a lot of people, and it's a war-torn country. There are ancestral homes that go back generations and generations that have just been destroyed, that are unrecognizable now, and it was just this overwhelming problem. And I remember hearing about the Syrian refugee crisis, and I remember feeling really stuck. What possibly could I do to help in any way with this global issue happening in this country on the other side of the world, that if I looked at a map, I couldn't tell you exactly where it was. I knew what part of the world it was in, but I couldn't point to it on a map. I knew that there were really awful things happening there, but I had no, what could I possibly do in a situation like that? I felt stuck, I felt paralyzed, I felt overwhelmed by that kind of a problem. If you see these tragedies, and it's not just this one, right? Over in our world, throughout human history, we have seen so much pain and suffering. We've seen the Holocaust, we've seen slavery, we've seen world wars, we've seen sex trafficking and pandemics, and so much more. And it's impossible to live in the world without encountering tragedies like these. For me, the Syrian refugee crisis was one that kind of woke me up in a way. More than likely, if it hasn't happened for you already, there will be something that happens in the world that will kind of wake you up to this sense of feeling so small in this big world and wondering, what can I do about it? And maybe your brain will kind of get stuck. If you see all these tragedies and you don't ever wonder where God is, then I would suggest you might not be paying close enough attention. And if you're not curious about the question of where God is when these horrible things are happening in the world, then, or maybe you're not curious about the question because you think you know the answer, maybe you think you've got all of this figured out already, then I would maybe challenge you that you should reevaluate some of the things that you think. Maybe open yourself up to some new thoughts around that. If your brain sometimes gets stuck on this question, then I would say to you, me too. And I think that is a normal thing. The tragedy impacted so many people. The Syrian refugee crisis impacted so many people, and I wanted to help, but I just wasn't sure really what to do. In the Old Testament, there is a story about a young woman named Esther, and we talked about this story if you were here this summer. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't, I just need that somewhere else. We talked about this story this summer, and I told you the whole story in one sermon. And so if you were here this summer, then I'm sorry, you're going to hear some repeats of that tonight. If you weren't here, don't worry, I'm going to catch you up, but we're not going to go into quite as much detail with it. So in the Old Testament, there is a story about a young woman named Esther, and she has this story of incredible bravery and sacrifice. And it is a really great question. As I tell you this story, I want you to wonder about the question, where is God? So as I tell you this story, I just want you to be thinking, where is God in the midst of what's happening to this young woman? So Esther is a young woman in the country of Persia, and she has been chosen to be the next queen of Persia. And if you remember this summer, that's because the evil king of Persia had decided that he wanted his wife to do a little striptease in front of a bunch of drunk men, and the wife was like, peace, I'm not doing that. And the guy was like, okay, then you can go, and he decided to choose a new queen. And there was more to it than that, but suffice to say, Esther becomes the new queen. And Esther is a Jew, but most people don't know that, including the king, King Xerxes of Persia. He doesn't know that she's a Jew. And why does that matter? Well, it matters because there was like some low-key anti-Semitism happening in Persia, right? Like, and maybe not so low-key. Like, people were super anti-Jewish, and so it was like Esther was kind of keeping it on the DL that she was a Jew because she didn't want people to know. She didn't want to deal with their judgment and all of that. And so the king of Persia certainly didn't know that she was a Jew when he chose her to be his wife. One of the king's key advisors was this guy named Haman. Now, Haman was super racist, and he was a political leader. He was like Haman's second in command. He was like Xerxes' second in command. And Haman was like super anti-Semitic. Like, he hated Jews. And he decides that he thinks there should be a mass execution of every single Jew in the nation of Persia, all because this one dude, Mordecai, pissed him off, and so he decides he wants all of the Jews dead. He's like not a good guy at all. He's the really evil one in the story. Okay, so he's pretty scary. What's even scarier is that he gets the king to agree to it, and so the king agrees, yeah, let's just kill all of them. It's fine. And so that's what happens. They put a law in place that says that anybody living in Persia can kill any Jew they want to without any consequences on X date. And so as you can imagine, the Jewish people are like freaking out. They're like, what's going to happen to us? So here's what you need to know. So Esther, it turns out that Mordecai, this guy who pissed off Haman that put this whole plan into action, Mordecai is Esther's cousin. So Mordecai goes to Esther and is like, listen, we've got a problem, and you need to do something about it. So Mordecai goes to Esther, and Esther finds out about the plan, and he says to her, like, you are the one who has to save us. Like, you're the one who has to do something. He urges Esther to speak with the king to stop the execution and to rescue the people. Now, here's what you need to know, if you don't remember from the summer, about the whole thing about Esther talking to the king. If Esther walks into the throne room, and the king doesn't like, hey, Esther, wife, like if he's not like so excited to see her, he can just like snap his fingers or like point and like she's dead, right? Like he can have her killed on the spot because you don't just go into the throne room to speak to the king uninvited. It's like a potential death sentence. So the other thing is that, and this was true of like nobody. So going straight to the king without his permission would not only have resulted in Esther's death, but probably would have sped up the death of her people. So we're going to read Esther chapter 4, starting in verse 11, and just take a look at a little bit of what happens at this point in the story. All the king's officials and the people in his provinces know that there's a single law in a case like this. This is Esther talking, by the way, to Mordecai. Any man or woman who comes to the king in the inner courtyard without being called is to be put to death. Only the person to whom the king holds out the gold scepter may live. In my case, I haven't been called to come to the king for the past 30 days. Okay, she's his new wife, but he hasn't called her in 30 days. Like, they haven't seen each other in a month, right? So it's not like there's this like warm relationship, okay? So keep reading. I'm going to keep going. When they told Mordecai Esther's words, he had them respond to Esther, "Don't think for 1 minute that unlike all the other Jews, you'll come out of this alive simply because you are in the palace. In fact, if you don't speak up at this very important time, relief and rescue will appear for the Jews from another place. But you and your family will die. But who knows? Maybe it was for a moment like this that you came to be part of the royal family." Esther sent back this word to Mordecai: "Go gather all the Jews who are in Susa and tell them to give up eating to help me be brave. They aren't to eat or drink anything for 3 whole days, and I myself will do the same along with my female servants. Then, even though it's against the law, I will go to the king. And if I am to die, then die I will." Okay, did you catch what she said? Did you catch that? First of all, did you catch what Mordecai said? That Mordecai is like, listen, you have an opportunity. You can say no if you want. But believe me, if you say no and you won't help us, God will deliver us through some other means, but God will not deliver you, right? So you and your family will die. God will find a different way to deliver us. And then did you catch what Esther says at the very end, where she's like, okay, I'll go, and if I die, I die. If you've read maybe a different translation, it says, if I perish, I perish. So once Esther decides to act, then here's what she did. She approaches the king really carefully. She invites them to this massive banquet, him and evil Haman. They come to this banquet, and she invites them to come and eat with her. And at the feast, instead of making her request, she invites the king to a second feast and promises that she makes her request then. And then the next day, the king went to Esther's second banquet, and he's ready to hear her request. Haman is there too. And now let's read what happens starting in chapter 7. When the king and Haman came in for the banquet with Queen Esther, the king said to her, "This is the second day we've met for wine. What is your wish, Queen Esther? I'll give it to you. And what do you want? I'll do anything, even give you half the kingdom." Queen Esther answered, "If I please the king, and if the king wishes, give me my life. That's my wish, and the lives of my people too. That's my desire. We have been sold, I and my people, to be wiped out, killed, and destroyed. If simply we had been sold as male and female slaves, I would have said nothing, but no enemy can compensate the king for this kind of damage." King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther, Ahasuerus is the Greek name for his other name, which is Xerxes, "Who is this person and where is he? Who would dare do such a thing?" Esther replied, "A man who hates an enemy, this wicked Haman." Haman was overcome with terror in the presence of the king and queen. Furious, the king gets up and he leaves the banquet for the palace garden. But Haman stood up to beg Queen Esther for his life. He saw clearly that the king's mood meant a bad end for him. The king returned from the palace garden to the banquet room just as Haman was kneeling on the couch where Esther was reclining. "Will you even molest the queen while I am in the house?" the king said. The words had barely left the king's mouth before covering Haman's face with dread. Harbona, one of the king's eunuchs serving the king, said, "Sir, look, there's the stake that Haman meant for Mordecai, the man who spoke up and did something good for the king. It's standing at Haman's house, 75 feet high. Impale him on it," the king ordered. So they impaled Haman on the very pole that he had set up for Mordecai, and the king's anger went away. So they kill Haman, right? They put him up on a pole. They hang him up on this pole. It's pretty gruesome. The Bible is not clean, right? The Bible is not rated G. So this is pretty dramatic. It's a dramatic scene, right? You've got, Haman is begging for his life. He's pleading with the queen, and the king walks in and thinks that he's molesting her right there in the palace. And so he's all pissed off, and it's a whole thing. It's an intense scene, but I want you to see what happens here. Haman is punished for what he did. In the end, there's a degree of justice that gets served at the end of this story, right? Esther and Mordecai and their people are saved. The end of the story is that they are saved. They aren't killed. There's a big festival to celebrate the day that the Jews were saved from this slaughter. Okay, so I want you to remember the question that I asked you to think about as we kind of blasted through this story of where was God? Don't feel bad if you missed this detail. Not a lot of people do, but I think one of the really interesting things about the book of Esther is that in the entire book, all 7 chapters, the word God in any of its forms is never mentioned. God's not talked about. There's no synagogue anybody goes to. There's no worship piece of the story. Even in the part where Esther says, "Have everybody fast for me," even that, there's no direct, it's not fast and pray to God. It's just, everybody don't eat for a while before I go and do this. So God's never mentioned in the whole story. So where was God? If God's not mentioned, does that mean that God just wasn't there? Does that mean that God is just absent from the story of Esther? Where was God when the Jewish people were hurting and in danger? And I think it's a really good question. And I have 3 places that I think God was in the story. First, I think God was present. Invisible, sure, you probably noticed, but just because we can't see God in this book or in our lives doesn't mean that God isn't present. If you read between the lines, you can see that God is there. God never left or forgot the Jewish people. God was working. The entire story of Scripture, from Genesis to Revelation, all of the Bible reveals God is always on the side of the oppressed, working for God's justice, working against oppression. In Esther's story, Haman was the oppressor, and God's people, the Jews, were the oppressed, and God was working to rescue them, but all of God's work took time. And then the last thing is that God was working through Esther. So we see one moment in Esther's story where God is almost mentioned, when Mordecai tells Esther what she must do, and she tells everybody to fast for her, but God answered by giving her guidance and strength. That God gives her the strength that she needs to just go before the king and do this in the first place. So Esther and God heard the cries of the Jewish people, and they both had enough. But Esther could never have done what she did on her own. We see God actively working through her by placing her in this position of influence in the first place, right? That's what Mordecai says. You maybe have heard a translation that says, "For such a time as this." It's this famous line. Well, that comes from this book of Esther, where Mordecai says, maybe this exact thing is the reason why you are the queen of Persia in the first place. So God puts her in a position of influence and authority long before she ever needed it. God gives her courage in this really frightening situation. God gives her creativity to solve a really difficult problem, right? She had to work the king in just the right way. And then God rescues her and her people when everything seemed hopeless. But isn't it interesting that God never tells Esther exactly what to do? Esther doesn't have a vision from God. Esther doesn't speak to her in a still small voice. There's no dreams. There's nothing like that. God never tells her exactly what to do. As far as we know, God doesn't speak to Esther in any miraculous way or give her the plan. The text certainly doesn't tell us that part of the story. But Esther still knew what God would have her to do. The answer is pretty simple to how she knew that, because God's directions to us have always been clear. When you see someone in need, you help them. That's what God wants us to do pretty much all the time. When you see someone in need, you help them. I have one more little object lesson that I want to do. And I need six volunteers this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right, which of you believes yourself to be the strongest? Okay.
Okay, Henry, yeah!
I need you to put this over your eyes. And I need you to hold this. You're going to want both hands. But you're going to hold it directly out in front of, yes, like that. Yep, the hard way. Hold it the hard way. Okay. Henry, can you breathe? Okay. Just stand there and hold that like that for a minute. Okay. Hold it up. Don't drop it. Okay, you're going to hold these, and every once in a while, you're going to take one and show it to them, and you're going to do what it says, okay? Yeah. Okay? Henry, you just hold them. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. Now, I want you to think back to some of the big problems in the world that we listed earlier. There's war, and there's hunger, and violence, and lack of access to clean water or medicine, and so much more. There's a lot of hurt in the world, right? You can probably all agree to that. And it can start to feel kind of heavy. Yeah? So it's 10 pound weight. 10 pounds all the way out here. It's not nothing. Yeah? How you doing? Okay. Yeah. So, when we see hurt in the world around us, we might feel like this. He can't see anything, right? But every once in a while, Cole, have somebody do the first one. Just direct somebody to do the first thing. Here, right over here. I got one for you. Hold it up, hold it up, hold it up. Well, you're gonna, yeah. It's just a normal chair. It's just a normal chair. But you have to keep holding it up. Yeah, you can lean back if you want. Okay. Okay. Keep holding it up. Up. There we go. All right. So when we see the hurt in the world around us, we feel like this. We're like, we can't see God. Everything that's wrong in the world starts to feel heavier and heavier. When you feel overwhelmed by all that's wrong, it's okay to ask tough questions like where God is. But even when we can't see God working, God answers prayers, like gives us a cheater. At the moment, Cole, I think, is God in this scenario. Okay, the next person, you can instruct the next person. Henry. People who are experiencing hunger can't just set down the dumbbell.
They don't have to do that.
Here, you're gonna have a little help. There we go. Okay. God changes the circumstances and sends some people to help. Okay, let's send somebody. Give somebody the next one.
Henry.
Just come over here and just tell him he can do it. I believe in you.
Do I whisper in his ear?
Yeah. Yeah.
Words of encouragement.
There you go. God sends people to give us peace and comfort. And then one more. We've got one more, Cole.
Let's go. Yes. Actually, just stay still. Just do what you're doing. You're fine.
All right, man, you got 30 seconds left.
30 seconds left, Henry. Okay, sometimes it takes time, but when people are hurting, God is always present. God's always working. God's always sending people to help. And often, always, those people are you and me. We're the ones that God is sending to help. All right, you're done. You can put it down.
Henry, it's a trap. Don't do it.
Let's go, Henry.
Good job, Henry. Thank you.
Let's go, Henry.
All right, I want to show you a picture and kind of wrap up my story and then send you guys on to your small groups. Do we have the picture? Please tell me that Kyle, yeah, okay, all right. These are 5 of the most important people in my life. They're the mom, the one in the headscarf is Busaina, and her husband there in the red is Walid. And then this is their son, Noor. The older daughter is over here in the pink. Her name is Gina. And then the little adorable one who is now in 7th grade, which I can't handle. Her name is Hazal. This picture was taken in 2016. And they came to our country as Syrian refugees on January 1st, 2016. Here's what happened. Our church said, wow, there's a lot of people coming from Syria. And the way that our church does things, just our way of doing things, is not to do like an inch worth of help and spread it across like a mile of needs. The way that our church often, usually, pretty much always goes about trying to help is to find a way to go a mile deep, even if it means that we can only spread the help by an inch. And so, have you guys heard that phrase, that saying that you do for one what you wish you could do for all? And that's what we as a church decided to do. Is we came along, this family, the Almarawis, and we decided to go all in on them. Like, we put all of our eggs in this one basket to see what we could do, like as much, as far as we could go to help just this one family. And so my husband and I were the key, like the point people on that. And we did all sorts of things for them and helped them for a long time. And it changed my life, helping them for the years that we did and becoming their friend. I still am in contact with them almost daily. Busaina is my girl's nanny. If you've ever been around the church, that are, I don't know, probably not really during the week, but Busaina has the girls on Tuesday through Friday while I'm working. She's the nanny for both my girls. Busaina loves my girls like they're her own children. Like they might as well be an extension of their whole family. Like Walid, my girls have Walid wrapped around their little, he will do anything for them. It is ridiculous. You guys, Walid hand feeds individual bites of food to Ella. Like she runs around and plays and then comes back and and he feeds her the next bite, okay? Like she's so spoiled when she's over at their house. But my point is that God is always the first one in, since God is always with us, and God is always the last to leave because God never gives up on us. Like God has been all over the story of this family and of what of their story now. So Walid is fully employed here in the U.S. COVID hit their family pretty hard, but on the other side of COVID, he's employed again. Noor is wrapping up his associate's degree at Nova. Gina is a 10th grader at Fairfax High School. So if any of you go to Fairfax, then Gina is one of your classmates. She's in 10th grade. And Hazal is a 7th grader at Glasgow Middle School and over in Alexandria. And they are amazing. They are just the most remarkable people I've ever met in my life. And I just wanted you to see them. I wanted you to know who they are. And I wanted you to see that God is looking for willing people to partner to help make wrongs right. God is looking for willing people who will say, I want to go a mile deep, even if it means I'm only going to go an inch wide. Like, I just want to invest in some problems somewhere. I just want to be a willing person for some of the hurt in the world. Our world today is very different from Esther's, but we have a lot in common. Both then and now, people are persecuted and hated or needing help because of where they live on the planet, or their religious beliefs, or their culture, or their skin color, or their body shape, or their nationality, or their disability, or their physical or mental health, or so much more. But we don't have to be burdened or powerless or stuck or confused, because like Esther, we can choose to do something with the resources that God has given us. Even, I don't speak Arabic. Even if you don't think you have anything to offer, you have yourself. You have your own love, you have your own big hearts, you have your own kindness, you have your own just knowledge of the world, that you can come alongside hurting people and help them in ways that maybe you never thought you could. Maybe you are alive right now in this place for such a time as this. That just like Esther, like it's because of what you have right now, like what's going on in the world right now, that you are here so that you can do something. When people are hurting, you can help locally. You can find a need close to home and do something to alleviate